Hello, and welcome to Wyverns Weirdos Fathomless, the D&D podcast set in the world of Fierlor. I am your Dungeon Master, 𝘍𝘐𝘵, and joining me as always are Eddie, playing Tibble, Mitch, playing 𝘧𝘀, Joe, playing Alton, and Jake, playing the Fishman, and Laura, playing 𝘠𝘢. Let's jump into it. So, where we last left off, the party faced off against the Oblex, luring it out with the Fishman, who seemed to be completely unfamiliar to it. So it was determined that he was probably the best bait. And after a decent combat with the Oblex bringing out 𝘬𝘭𝘪 simulacra of 𝘧𝘀 and Tibble to further its reach, the party were victorious in their combat, with Fishman dealing the final blow as ooze liquefied and exploded across the battlefield. And that's where we pick up, as those of you with, I'd say anyone with a passive perception above 15 would probably notice in the distance, like the middle distance, people kind of poking their heads out of their houses and wondering what's going on. Just various 𝘬𝘭𝘭𝘪𝘐 of various bright plumages. As the six of you stand in the center of town. What would you like to do?
So Tibble, completely unaware of the audience they have, casts a glance over to all of his allies, and he calls out, "Everyone all right? All still accounted for?"
Yes. Anyone need any healing? Take any hits?
No,
Ducks.
I'm perfectly fine.
Is 𝘧𝘀 obviously in pain, or is he?
Yes.
Yep, cool. Fishman will just direct Ultimo and be like, "I believe our friend here needs some. He's done some good work today and definitely deserves the healing attention."
Of course.
But aside from that, despite being bait, I am pristine and unharmed. Good job, everyone. I think I got quite lucky, but I'll be honest, I believe I owe it to you that I wasn't tendrilled up and swallowed and made a copy of, I guess.
You were very brave. Good job.
You did well.
I can guarantee you, I was definitely trying to keep face, and it was mainly adrenaline keeping me going. That thing is scary as shit.
Yeah, the multiple forms coming out of its mass, that was unnecessary. Alton's looking 𝘧𝘀 over, and he gets 13 points of healing.
Thank you very much. Alton, how is your arm?
My arm. I'm fine.
See 𝘧𝘀's eyes kind of flick a couple of times. Of course you are.
What's wrong
thank
with
you.
my arm?
Nothing. You are. I am just inquiring. You looked like you were rubbing it earlier.
Alton just like looking at his arm like, what? What have I not seen? Cool. Thanks for your concern. Mm.
Right. Well, everyone's been seen to. Well, I believe there was a secondary objective to us coming here, correct? To find those notes of our associate?
I believe so. That is why we came here, and I guess our side objective was to take care of that creature. I believe he said he might have been working in the town, did he not?
Well, would it be best for us to go back and then maybe he himself can show us where his notes are? And he kind of glances over to where Neris is. He's like, or shall some of us have a look for them now while the rest of us go inform the others it's safe?
Give me one moment. I may be able to help with this. Fishman will venture into like the outskirts of the town, and he's on the lookout for any animals that aren't toucan.
Roll me a survival check, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Dirty 20.
Dirty 20. You find let's say a squirrel.
Cool. Fishman will rip off some fabric from here or there, or something that he can tie onto, and he'll write a little note, and he'll lean down to the squirrel, and he will start to talk to the squirrel if he can. And he'll say, using what's it called? Speak with animals.
Hmm?
If you could please do me a favor, could I get you to go to that cabin in the woods and deliver this message?
Yes. Yes.
Is Tibble within hearing distance of this?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah. Tibble scampers over and he's like, good afternoon, good sir. To the squirrel.
Good afternoon.
And hold that request one moment. And then he looks up to the fishman and he's like, as much as I appreciate the sentiment, I was being a little facetious. I was given the lad an opportunity to look over those notes before our associate. So some of us would go back and tell them, and it wouldn't be suspect for others not to be there.
Either way is fine.
Also, I don't think
probably
that a lot
wouldn't
of
either way.
folk are used to little creatures giving them, no offense, young man, to little creatures giving them the messages, especially with everything that's happened here.
That is fair enough. Well, little friend, don't you worry. Things should be better off here now. You enjoy yourself. And he'll take an acorn out of his pouch, not the golden magical variety, and give it to the squirrel.
Okay. It scampers off with the acorn and eating it as it goes along.
Anyway, apologies. As I was saying, let's say Neris and maybe Rue, you know this town a little bit, correct?
Yes, I know where 𝘍𝘭𝘪𝘏 was staying. I can accompany and show you the way if you wish.
Neris, is that acceptable?
The I am quite agreeable to the terms. I think if we are able to at least find the notes as Adventurer Forbray asked us to.
Aye. Well, I'm trusting this mission with you, lad. As you know, it's most important that our friend gets his notes back. He does like a little wink to Neris. Undiscernible. You do not know what this wink specifically is for. He's like, well, the rest of you, shall we head back? Make sure all the locals aren't going out of their minds. Aye?
Sure thing.
Oh, wait.
Fishman?
Absolutely.
Have a nice walk. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Rue. See you shortly. Good fighting.
Perhaps it may be wise to see if there are any other issues with the island, if this creature was acting alone, or if there is something else, perhaps another sulfurous smell somewhere. I would hate to have destroyed one creature only for there to be a second.
Shall we, the rest of us do a sweep then?
This is a good idea. You should do a sniff test.
Aye. All right. We'll break up into groups of 2 then. That sound good?
Wait.
Rue, Neris. Just sniff when you're looking for the notes, I guess. Well, Neris, I guess. Do that.
Yes, that's a good point. I'm not so good at sniffing.
That's fine. You can just make sure that Neris isn't abducted. That'll be enough.
I'll do my best. Please accompany me, Quarter... Neris, please.
Of course. Leads the
brute-
way.
Rue kind of like lopes along, kind of like turning like every couple of moments to like check that Neris is following, and we'll lead him to the place, the tavern place,
Yes,
the boarding house that he was staying at.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, Alton, Fishman, if you can do sweep, that would be excellent. You take the west side. Nysen and I'll take the east.
Certainly. I don't know how much use I'm going to be if there's much hiking involved, but if you're fine with taking a slower pace, Fishman.
Absolutely. And we have eyes in the sky as well.
Just within the town should be fine.
Ah, good, good.
We can send out word, me and the Fishman, to the little creatures to get them to have a look around the mountains.
That works well then.
All right. We'll meet back at Rue's within the hour.
Okay. So, Neris and Rue, so you go to the boarding house, and you go upstairs and you find, it's reasonably easy to find which room.
Rue knows where he's staying, I believe.
Yes, and it's easy to find which room in particular Eldrin was occupying, because there are the telltale signs of the ooze's presence, as it was trying its best to keep up the charade. And you're able to kind of get to the door.
So as we're walking there, Friday,
Yes?
you have expressed yourself as someone who has a longing for knowledge that you don't currently possess. Am I correct in that assumption?
Of course. I mean, the natural curiosity is good for all doctors. And I do possess many questions about the world. And things that I do not have answers to. I am very interested in knowledge and learning. Why do you ask, nurse?
Well, we seem to have found ourselves with an opportunity to gain a lot of knowledge in a very short period of time. I have tried to extend the amount of times that we have. And going back on the notes that Neris read in the study, he's fairly convinced there is only one of these creatures, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. While the others are perusing the town, trying to find any trace of something else, which I don't actually believe is there. We may have bought ourselves a little bit of extra time to do some investigative work of our own.
I see. To look at 𝘬𝘭𝘪's notes ourselves, you say?
Indeed.
I think that's incredibly clever and very interesting.
I think information is there to be shared. I don't know what you know of Explorer 𝘬𝘭𝘪, but he did not seem, even though he made certain assurances, I don't know how forthcoming he will be with information.
No. Especially since it was not clear until just recently that he specializes in animancy. It makes sense, though. That's what most people come here for. It does make me curious. I think your assessment is correct. No offense to 𝘬𝘭𝘪, who I presume you're at least in some degree acquainted with, as this was your task.
Of course, I hope him to be a very good and stalwart friend and ally in the coming months.
Yes, a friend. I see. Well, I think this is a good idea. It is just this way. May I ask a question of you, nurse?
Of course.
And like probably they're sort of reached the boarding house by this point. There's like lots of knotted grass and sort of just like that windswept sort of like area where the hill is, where the boarding house is. Which I believe W specified was like all wooden and like so a little bit weather-worn and all that. And the root kind of like turns their mask, like their head fully to look at Neris.
I have noticed that since we rescued the others, you have been very quiet. You spoke quite fondly of your captain. Are you still suspicious of the others?
Neris takes a very deep breath in and then exhales after a beat. As quartermaster, I spend a great deal of time with my crew, the crew of the Polaris, getting to know them and becoming acquainted with them.
Yeah.
I trust them all in their own individual ways. This island is curious. This creature that has lived among it almost seems to be part of the island in a way, even though it is not native to it. It is interesting and dangerous but the powers that it has makes me concerned for the people who I am currently traveling with. With all due respect, yourself included.
I see.
Hopefully, I'm sure that will be fixed and remedied now that this creature is gone and dealt with. I think I am not good in big groups of people for a long period of time. I find my focus dwindles.
I can understand this.
I'm sure once I am back in my study for a little while and I get to research everything that I am longing to research, then everything will be fine.
There will be some semblance of control, you say. It makes sense. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I have been very much like that for some time. My father figure, 𝘬𝘬𝘁, was a lot better at speaking and talking and doing many things, similar to your captain. And I had another friend who was also similar, so I was content with being quiet. But being alone all the time is not fun either. But I get the understanding that this is perhaps more of a control thing, which is not a bad thing. I hope I understand. I'm still working on both my bedside manner and also my observations. But I appreciate to have spent some of this time with yourself and your friends.
And then Rue kind of like, it's probably like, we're probably like walking upstairs as Rue's kind of like looking around, and probably stills a bit as they see like the damage on like the floor and everything like that. It's just sort of just snooping around to make sure there's no danger around.
And 𝘨 is very quiet after that and just sort of looks at Rue for a little bit. And then as we are like entering the premises and going up the stairs, he becomes very focused on the surroundings. And we attempt to, I guess figure out how to get into the room. I'm assuming it's locked.
You can check.
We do that. Rue's like arm blade kind of goes out again from their wrist.
Yeah, the door is locked.
In portion.
The door is locked upon initial inspection.
There does appear to be some damage here. Do you have something you can do?
I do, but I don't really want to. Do you have any way of... is there an owner of this establishment somewhere? Can we find a key that way?
Ruka just looks around. Is there anyone there?
Not currently.
They don't seem to be present right now.
How do doors work in this establishment? Specifically, how do locks work? Is it like just a key, or is there a latch on the other side? Like, can you lock it from the inside without a key? With like a little latch or something?
Yeah, it seems like there's no sort of... Yeah, it seems that it's locked through like a latch on the other side, more so than a key lock.
Okay.
Well, no. Yeah, so it's locked with both.
I will just volunteer my only suggestion myself, if we are to do this expeditiously, Do not attract attention, for looking over the contents, if they are indeed here, would be to attack it. I am not popular here anyway, so it would probably be with no consequence.
Is that, perhaps we should try something else?
Do you
Maybe.
have a suggestion, Quartermaster?
I do have a suggestion. You said it was locked twice, like with a key and with a latch?
Yes.
Damn. Okay. Could you just hold for one moment?
You suspect the latch would probably have some give to it, but the actual
key,
lock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right. Give me one moment. And
You don't know whether it's jokey or not, but they still just like lift up the arm blade and just
Oh,
freeze
God.
there.
Neris is going to bend down to the keyhole, see the arm blade lift up, and kind of like shift back, give it a beat, and then slowly go back down to the keyhole. Can you see anything through it?
Roll me a perception check at disadvantage.
Oh, I don't think I need the disadvantage. Oh, well, there you go. That is a 7.
It is near difficult to see anything through the keyhole.
Can I see a bit of the floor?
I'd say you can probably see a little bit of floor.
If it's alright, I also have a non-damaging option as well.
Well, I could get you into the room if you would like. Would you like to go in without breaking a door?
It's up to you. I could also get me into the room.
Does it involve breaking things?
Probably not. Who knows? I'm feeling very spontaneous today.
Oh, goody. Tell you what, let us do it this way first, and if that doesn't work, then we can go with your way.
Of course, if it makes you more comfortable, I'm always more happy to acquiesce.
It
Please.
absolutely does.
Good, then I'm glad.
Would you hold out your, like, still looking through the keyhole, would you hold out your hand, please? Preferably the one without the sword on it.
Ha ha ha, I almost was going to use the blade. Very funny. Good job. Humor is very good in these sorts of situations.
And then Rue sort of like reaches out their like long little clawed leather covered hand.
As soon as contact is made, Neris like reaches out and grabs Rue's hand and kind of squeezes it tightly.
Huh?
Looks through the keyhole at that little spot on the floor and kind of moves his hand and does a couple of weird mouth sounds in a couple of different languages all together at the same time. And Rue, you disappear and reappear in that room as I cast Vortex Warp.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh, it did work.
And I'm inside the room now, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rue just kind of looks around.
It's
There's no danger immediately?
No, it's not particularly bright in here, but there is some light creeping in through the window. It would be considered dim light.
Cool.
And yeah, you can probably like.
Yeah, so Neris hears like the sound of like a as like the arm blade retracts, and then the door kind of like crackles a bit as Rue undoes the door and opens the door.
You have a very interesting handshake, Nose.
Neris is going to sort of mutter something under his breath. Does Rue understand Primordial, out of curiosity?
No.
Okay. It is something kind of guttural, as it kind of looks you up and down. And then straightens up and brushes himself off. That was very well done.
Are you all right?
I am perfect. Everything is fine. Are you okay? Are you tingly? Are you all together? Is everything okay with you?
I'm sort of always a bit tingly. But no, I feel good. That was an interesting sort of magic. What sort of magic was it? You seem very confident in casting.
I was not. I will be perfectly honest. That is the first time I have ever cast that spell. I was not entirely sure if it would work.
Oh dear. That was not animancy either, was it?
It was not. No. It was a form of conjuration, in a way. I am transferring matter from one location to another.
That's interesting. That is not how my mentor would have described it, but it fits the bill. Good job, Neris. I'm glad you trust me enough to test experimental magic on me.
Your mentor was arcane?
In a way, his song brought joy to all, and he had much experience in magic through Finton and through himself. He had many theories about the sort of magic I possess, but not in a scientific way.
Interesting.
Shall we peruse what this explorer fought so hard to hide?
We shall.
Right.
We
We
investigate.
begin to peruse.
Yeah.
We peruse.
Yeah, so I'll allow either, and it's up to you two, separate investigation checks, or if you would like, one of you can roll an investigation check with advantage as the other assists.
Rue is pretty good at investigating, but they can also assist Neris.
Neris is quite good at looking at things.
Well, then Rue will assist.
Alright. Okay.
Come on, you can roll above a 10.
I
I
did.
believe in you.
One of them was a nat one.
Oh my
We're
god!
all good. That's a 26.
A 26.
I'm gonna burn your dice, Mitch.
Okay. Yeah. He wasn't particularly hiding them. All that discerningly. And so you find them quite easily in his kind of little bedside table that he has here. A small but thick notebook that you flick through and has a bunch of notes in mostly common that seem to be discussing general animancy as well as the effects of animancy that appear on this island. Particularly some strange kind of unbridled, uncontrolled level of animancy that is particularly strong here, but is also somewhat within the region. That seems to be at its strongest in a particular landmark within the forest.
Interesting.
Rue's like just poked them, like they're just looking over Neris's shoulder, unless Neris is extremely careful about hiding what he's
But-
looking at.
Neris is not hiding and is actively talking out loud.
Yeah.
Not to
excellent.
anyone, but like to himself.
Curious. That's so interesting.
Based on the way that he has written it and drawn up diagrams, the notes Eldrin seems to be of the opinion that he has determined all that he can about this landmark and about the effects in the region without like further off-island research. And he, you gather, was probably not long away from departing, or at least communicating with some form of departure when he was captured.
So, if he is an expert in his field, then there's probably not much more to glean than beyond these notes. Do you think?
I believe so. So it seems like he may be, because there are many references to external studies being needed to be done on certain libraries and certain notes where references need to be made.
More information about animancy. That is very interesting.
There are also notes within here on possible applications of these magical principles through spells. Most of this is probably beyond your current understanding of animancy specifically, but even your magical capabilities in general at this stage. Something that you kind of mostly understand, but is a little bit beyond you still.
That excites Neris more than anything.
Yeah. If you were to take the time, you could probably get reasonable copies of them out in order to later kind of experiment and refine and work out how to do it yourself, but it's going to be beyond you for a little bit.
𝘬𝘭𝘭𝘪𝘤 also mentioned a spell book.
Yes, that you also found. And it seems to be, flicking through it, the spells that you kind of, like, most of the spells that you're looking at, that you can almost immediately, actually, roll me an Arcana check for that one.
Okay. No. Oh, 20.
20. Most of the early stuff, at least the stuff that you can understand, seems to be fairly standard abjurative, divinatory, little bit of conjuration, little bit of a lot of it, a little bit of animantic, most of it, other than like a lot of that low-level stuff, is probably things that either are not typically within your field of interest or you already are capable of. There are some things that are beyond your recognition, again, in as you get into the later pages, that you recognize occasional symbols as typically animantic, divinatory, abjurative in nature. The occasional like symbology that tends to be associated with necromancy, but that usually is hand in hand with animantic stuff. And from your loose, at this point, knowledge of animancy, they tend to kind of, in some circles, are considered kind of the light and shade of each other. So there's a lot of cross-pollination in the symbology between the two schools of magic.
Interesting. So there are some powerful spells in here. Some that I don't fully understand or comprehend.
It sounds like it. Those do sound very interesting. It is not something I'm familiar with.
I would very much like to become this man's friend.
Not just useful, but a friend.
Naris is lost in thought. But he does kind of have like a little half grin.
Interesting. Well, I am sure then, Neris, you will be very grateful you have retrieved his things for him. Or perhaps some of his things. Is that the intention?
I think we should return everything that we've found in perfect condition. This man is very useful for long-term goals.
You remind me very much of someone I once knew. This is a good idea. You have a good read on people, it seems. Do you believe you have everything, then, to return back to the dwelling?
I do believe I have everything that he asked for. He didn't ask for anything else, did he? He asked for his notes and his spellbook.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right.
Then
Meanwhile,
let us go.
yeah.
Very
Meanwhile,
well.
Fishman and Alton, is there anything that you two are discussing as you do your searching?
So we're just walking around the town sniffing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
However, Fishman will bring him up on the fact that he used the guns. Or they used the guns. She's like, it's good to see you're bringing those out again. It's been a while since you've used them.
Yeah, it's they are the ammo is so expensive. I really don't want to waste them, but sometimes, the situation kind of calls for it. And I forgot my crossbow on the boat. Not going to do that
Fair
again.
enough.
Yeah. Hey, no, I'm glad to see you got through an encounter and some time in the woods without even a scratch.
Yes, but I didn't necessarily run into anything, thankfully, and that would be why. But I'm very curious about these firearms.
Yes, pistols.
How do you come across the ammunition? Do you trade for them, or I have no idea what happened to the accent there.
Well, at the moment, I go through Naris like the rest of the requisitions. But otherwise, yes, it's trade, and it's a little hard to come across.
I definitely see why they would be pricey, though. That was quite the show.
Oh, thank you. I've actually been modifying them myself a little bit.
And is this something that you wish to look into further?
I mean, definitely. It's, got to make my family name proud and everything.
Fishman holds up a finger as he takes a big whiff around, and then he'll continue talking as if that just didn't happen. He'd be like, well, if you want, I do enjoy weapon maintenance and modifications and such as well, and I don't want to step on any boundaries or anything, but if you do ever need a hand with any modifications or anything, I may be able to help.
No, exactly. That could be interesting. You don't have much experience with firearms, but
Absolutely not. No, that's why I feel like I'm a little out of my depth here, but they do interest me. And I do love the opportunity to learn something new if I can. Mind you, you'll probably just be note-taking at first, but then perhaps once I get my head around it, so I do have a fair bit of experience in other categories of weapon modifications. So perhaps Perhaps I could use those skills.
Elton like kind of like grins at the thought of like being the one with the knowledge. Like, yes, you're going to be like note taking. Yes. No, absolutely. I'd be happy to teach you a bit more about these. And oh yes, no, of course, you just need the basics in mechanical knowledge and everything, and you can kind of figure it out as you go. Sure.
Excellent.
Wouldn't mind having a chat sometime.
He'll take out his notebook and he'll start writing down some notes. Probably at the same time he does this, the toucan will fly down, quite tired and like sporadically flapping its wings as it lands on Fishman's shoulder and does like a little bit of a wheezed cough, like as it has been flying for some time. And something Jake the player, found out just recently, toucans don't fly very often. They're more of a flap a lot and glide kind of bird rather than actively fly. And that's all this toucan has been doing.
This is, I believe, the nature of this spell is that it is, I mean, it's not a real toucan, so like maybe Fishman didn't know, and it's because he created this creature. He just created it in the image of a toucan.
Very true. But I feel like Fishman being, a ranger might have a fair bit of knowledge in regards to animals. So I'm going to try and incorporate that as much as I can into his spell casting for flavor. But and that's where the toucan will rest, because they've probably been at this for a while now. So I feel like it would be safe for toucan to take a bit of a breather, so to speak. And if it has been an hour, actually, they just fade away in a flash of light again. So okay. He comes down very tired, flapping, does it, and then just explodes in a flare, essentially, and then he's gone.
Relatable. So, you reckon you could teach me to make one of those in exchange? A great animal.
Like a beast?
Sure.
Mayhaps. I believe it's definitely magic, though.
Yeah.
And I didn't take you for one who enjoys that.
No, I'm just messing with you. Not been blessed with that gift.
I do pay attention. I'd like to believe. In fact, I've actually, and like he'll just quickly like cover up the majority of the page and just show Alton a page with their name on the very top, and in like a massive squiggly like traced over circle multiple times it says dislikes magic. Because Alton and Fishman, I believe we said, would have spent a fair bit of time with each other.
Yeah.
It's yes, it's something I'm very aware of.
Yes. I need to work on improving like the range of things that I complain about, if that's my standout. But no. Good on magic and its extremely unfair advantage it gives people. But
what you make up for, I believe, is quite well. You're a specialist in many things, especially medical science. And no offense to maybe some of the other medics on the boat, but you're probably the one who I'd trust most with my life. But I don't play favorites, you see.
Alton does this like sharp-toothed grin momentarily before just like it like drops, and he just like kind of gives him a side and is like, all right, that's enough flattery. I already said I was going to give you lessons.
It's all good. It's all good. Smell any sulfur by any chance?
Do we smell these?
Roll me a perception checks.
I'd like, no, if it's okay, Could I please? Can we do like a? Can you assist me in sniffing? Can we do like a collaborative sniff?
Absolutely.
All right, excellent. All right. Well,
We sniff simultaneously.
The second one was a natural 4. Should absolutely not have done this. 12.
12. Yeah, you're pretty sure you can't smell any sulfur.
Well, I believe we've spent a good deal of time here. Perhaps we should meet up with the others, because I believe we're quite safe here. I believe we've done all we can to this place.
Seems good. Hopefully we got the lot of them.
Did you happen to find anything interesting in your investigations here?
Well,
it does seem this town has been abandoned, so I don't believe we should be looting it, but...
No, there's still some people. You can probably talk to 𝘨𝑟𝑒s. We had an interesting little look around a local church. So someone in there was involved in this whole thing, I think. But 𝘨𝑟𝑒s is the one who really read all the books and found the evidence.
Fair enough. From my conversations with our estranged guests at the cabin, I believe I have a good idea as to who these items belong to. But, 𝘨𝑟𝑒s is the thinker, and I will leave him to do that, and just that. Let's go find him.
Yes. Let's get going.
All right. Tibble, is there anything you wanted to discuss with 𝘨𝑒s while you were exploring?
Tibble, most likely, while he is doing a sweep over with 𝘨𝑒s, is making friendly conversation. He'd probably know a few things about 𝘨𝑒s and 𝘨𝑒s's life, like he does with all of his crew members. So he's probably just making friendly conversation, talking about the next shore leave arrangements, and also just sort of while... so he's also having a look around and making sure that everything's okay, that there isn't anything of suspect happening around at all. Do you want me to roll something for that?
Yeah, roll me a perception check to sniff around, check for some sulfur.
That's a 12.
12. Yeah, you don't really smell any sulfur around.
Yeah. Seems all right to him. So he continues making conversation with 𝘨𝑒s until they arrive back at 𝘠𝑢𝑠.
Yeah. So eventually you'll converge back at 𝘠𝑢𝑠's cottage.
So Tibble, assuming that Tibble and 𝘨𝑒s would have gotten back first, they would have waited outside. Tibble would have gone into the locals and mentioned, he basically would have told them, I'm having me crew do a sweep over of the rest of the town just to make sure we've gotten rid of it all. Rest assured, everything will be safe once they've returned. We'll give you a full rundown. And then him and 𝘨𝑒s would wait out the front for everyone else.
All right. So it's probably not too long before, probably immediately, or near immediately, Alton and the Fishman to return, and then shortly after, 𝘠𝑢 and 𝘨𝑟𝑒s.
Anything to report?
Did not find any sign of additional creatures in the area. I hope you were all the same.
No,
No signs.
definitely not.
Looks all clear. And just generally speaking, we've all got anything that we might otherwise need?
Yes, we do, Captain.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, we shall go in and inform the locals then.
Yes, I'm sure they'll be most pleased.
Now, Nerys.
Captain?
Do you think that it be wise that we this is me having issues, apologies. 𝘬𝘮𝑇𝑏𝑟𝑒, do you believe that it would be safe for us to offer him passage home if he requests it?
I believe that would be beneficial to all parties involved.
Tibble doesn't look necessarily happy about it, but he nods and he's like, aye. Well, I suppose we'll be having, well, maybe more than one guest on our ship then. Fellow crew members, before we go in, I will just let you know that I have invited 𝘠 to stay upon our ship as my own personal guest. I will not be taking any, well, I'm always open to criticism, but I won't be taking it openly, so please arrange personally with me. Thank you. I shall be helping our new friend with a personal investigative matter that, well, once we have established the boundaries within that information, you may find out about. This is if 𝘠 decides to join us, of course.
And sort of 𝘠 in the periphery, he kind of like straightens up excitedly and then kind of just like sort of looking like kind of turning their head imperceptibly like around to like the other crewmates. The lights behind the glass kind of like dim a bit and they're sort of like look a bit more reserved like they did once when before when like the locals were looking very suspiciously towards 𝘠, and then kind of just like looks a little bit excited again when Tibble's like, I won't be taking constructive criticism actually. And he just kind of goes, oh, and then like sort of shakes their head out a bit again, and he sort of like looks a little bit muted again when Tibble's like, oh, if 𝘠 wants to come, of course. That's the little physicality that's happening in rapid succession during that talk.
Anyway, as I said, any discussion on this matter, please take it up with me personally, privately. Thank you. Shall we go alert the village people?
Yes, we should. I'm sure they'll be overjoyed.
Of course.
And
yeah, Tibble enters 𝘠's home.
Yeah, 𝘠 opens up the door and then just kind of like stands aside for everyone else to walk in.
Yeah. As you walk in, you see one of them has their feathers ruffled up, another's wearing a cowboy hat. No. Stupid joke. Okay, yes, you see they are there waiting.
I'm upset.
You called them the village people.
I know. This is on me.
I love that.
Yeah, so you made the joke and it made me forget my own character's fucking name, and it's in the Zoom call. Yeah, so Tibble enters and he's like, good, what time of day is it, Darby?
It's probably, by this point, early afternoon. By the time everyone kind of did a sweep of the town.
Good afternoon, all. Myself and my crew, along with the help of our friend 𝘠, have done a full sweep of the town. As I informed you earlier, we have dealt with the situation. You should be free of this scourge. Congratulations. Any questions, comments, concerns?
There doesn't seem to be any questions or concerns from the council. The mayor, let me consult my 𝘬𝘁𝘁 says to you, I have no concerns to bring up, but I thank you for what you have done for our town. I know your quartermaster was talking about doing some trade or something of the like to replenish. If you see me at my office, I'd be happy to discuss things with you and see what we can help you with in that department. Thank you for all you have done for us.
Of course. 𝘨 and I will attend to your office before we leave back to the ship.
All right.
Does anyone else step forward and have anything to
not
say?
Of the council, they all kind of just there's a bit of a thanks as they leave, but they all
Looking a little bit too pleased
back
and too quick to be leaving Rose abode.
yeah.
Probably not quite meeting Tibble's eyes, the ones that Tibble was like, hey, listen to me, actually.
Yeah.
As Tibble was sort of mid-speech as well, being a fellow wizard and knowing what it's like to be without any form of magic or like a book, 𝘨 is going to just sort of step back behind everyone again and just kind of cover his mouth and do a very slight message spell to 𝘠𝘁𝘁. I have recovered all of your notes and your spell book. I have them with me and will give them to you as soon as I can.
I thank you, good sir. And then he says out loud, I don't suppose I could bother you for a trip back to the Isles.
You bet me to the post there. I was just about to offer. Would you be so humbled as to be a guest on the Polaris so we can get you safe travel home? I'm sure the bosses would appreciate it.
It would be my pleasure. Maybe I can make good on that promise to your quartermaster on my way there. The discussion of my expertise.
I'm sure there's plenty of shared knowledge that you can give each other.
Yes, and of course, for the retrieval of my notes and spell book, the 1,000 gold, I will make sure goes your way when we get back.
Aye. Well, shall we?
Oh, wait.
Wonderful. Alton, Nyzen, Fishman, if you can, start sorry, this is me just not being able to speak today. Accompanying 𝘠𝘁𝘁 back to the ship, that would be wonderful. And maybe, well, shall we send for another ship for another boat for stores, nurse?
Believes that may be wise if we have contact with the other vessel. With those on board, I can have a chat to the junior quartermaster and arrange something.
I mean, if you're sending us back.
I just send the message with the fishman. He can pass it on. Or Alton. Or Nizen. No offense to you, Eldred, but you don't know anyone on the ship.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. Completely understand.
Wonderful. Okay, well, off you go.
Come on, fancy pants.
He seems... I'll say anyone with a passive insight above a 15 can see he seems a little put out by that, shall we generously call it a nickname, as he
Alton
follows.
is thriving.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how fancy are his pants?
They're not in the greatest condition, but they are quite nice, so I'd say about a 6.
I'm picturing like
probably-
gilded pumpkin pants.
Probably
You don't need to physically have fancy pants.
probably an 8 or so if they weren't in their current condition.
I think it's justified then. Very justified.
All right.
Yeah, so once the others leave, Tibble turns to Nurse and he's like, we'll meet in the office. Was it the mayor that offered?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll meet in the mayor's office within the next 10. I'm hoping to have a conversation with Rue here, which you're welcome to stay for, but...
That is fine. I wish to converse with the mayor.
Make preparations or whatever.
Yes.
You know, just point me where to sign, etc.
Of course.
Neris,
Captain.
good job.
I'm very glad you are not buried under the ground.
Me too, lad. Me too. But the same for you, also.
Neris opens his mouth like he's about to say something and then kind of like squints and... I'll see you at the mayor's house.
Aye. See you shortly.
And Neris will take off.
And then there were two, my young friend.
Indeed. So you meant what you said when you wished for me to be a friend of the captain.
We fought together in battle, Rue. I'd
you
say
still
we're
do?
most likely friends now.
More so, after we fought in battle, not less.
Aye.
And Rukav's like looks like a little bit surprised at nods.
I see.
You fought well.
Yes, I am quite good at that. I like healing, of course. I'm a doctor, but I am very good at causing damage when need be. This is a big surprise, but I have enjoyed being with your company and yourself. And I am very excited about the idea of... Well, I have been on this island for a long time. The idea of the wider world is impossible and also endless to imagine.
Aye, isn't it exciting?
And Rue kind of like looks like a little bit like the lights kind of seem to be flickering a lot with their behind their mask, and they sort of look around a bit and like they look as much as a body language can for someone who's heavily clad in a lot of stuff. They look very like reluctant, I suppose. And then like I guess like then they look at the they kind of like reach into their pocket and they look at the map that Rue told, I believe Neris and Elton was the one that 𝘧𝘦𝘢𝘴𝘭𝘪 had left behind. And then they look over again, they still look very reluctant of this dusty house that has clearly not been lived in for very long, even though Rue's been here for quite some time. And then they're like,
I'm both excited and worried. What if as it comes back, and I am not here, but at the same time, it has felt for a long time like he might not return, and I'm just stuck here. You know, Tibble,
Aye.
when it became evident that there was a monster afoot, and that people's minds were being altered, I thought for a brief time, after you had all arrived, that the villagers might have been behaving differently towards me because of that. But then, when they rested here, and they were the same, it did not feel good.
If I may, Rue.
Please.
I'm trying to think of a way to say this that isn't. This Oblex character,
Yes.
as far as Neris and Alton were concerned, fed off mind, memories, intelligence, liked a lot of thoughts, which makes sense why it would go after Neris. However, why on any of the planets the Oblex would choose this silly little village to take up residence is absolutely beyond me. And I've got a brain about the size of a peanut. So, I wouldn't be thinking too long on the opinions of small minds, aside from mine, because my small mind is less full of thoughts of stupidity and more less full of thoughts.
I'm very fond of your small mind, if I may say. You remind me very much of my mentor.
I will take that with the deepest of compliments, Rue, as they seem to be very important to you.
He is and he was.
and then Rue kind of like looks around, like takes another long look at this empty house, this quiet house. And then they're like,
If you allow me one moment.
and then Rue sort of like reaches into their pocket, into the pocket of where they have like a lot of like scalpels and like different utensils, and they pull out the sort of like little velvet pouch that Tibble saw them sweep some stuff into when he first spoke to Rue this morning. And Rue kind of like scatters out this pouch along the little table near the like where they're standing, so it's like a low sort of coffee table, and sea glass spills out of there, again exactly like the sort of sea glass that Janice had in his room when you were investigating a couple of days ago. And then they sort of gleam with this light that sort of seems to just draw in the sunlight from outside the sea air. And then Rue kind of like looks, turns their head slightly to look at Tibble and is like,
These speak chances of the very near future, and sometimes the far future. Sometimes I hear them singing at night, my mentor, so that if I collect them, sometimes they'll show me the way.
and then Rue sort of is going to stretch out like both clawed hands, and sort of like a bright light that again Tibble can see is coming from between the seams of this black armor, just like fills with this sort of like more intense blue glow as their eyes glow, and they're going to cast augury on the sea glass, and they're just going to say,
Should I go?
and you sort of like hear like the rush of like the wind, like this, you hear like the crash of waves, like from outside the window, even though it's a little bit far away from, like it's much further away from where Rue's house is, the coast, but you like smell the sea breeze as it sort of like permeates around the room. And this light glows.
Okay. Yeah. So as you ask the question, yeah, the stone glows blue, which you probably interpret as a yes. Do you get multiple questions from Aubrey, or is it just the one question?
I don't know. It's like we'll it says like you receive an omen. I think it's just this
about
has a
the result
specific
of a
course
specific
of
course
action.
of action.
Yeah, so just one question, I think.
So yes, so it glows to suggest wheel.
And then Rue just sort of nods curtly and then turns to Tibble.
Is it all right if I bring Ham along?
Aye, of course. Do I get to meet Ham?
Definitely. Please follow with me.
And like as like Rue kind of like grabs a couple of just random items and just throws them into a bag, and then just grabs a couple like with both hands 2 big hunks of like dried meat, as because they had to walk through the kitchen to get out the front, and then Tibble will notice there's a lot of like just holes in the ground everywhere that he probably didn't notice before because he was tied up, and I imagine, and then Rue kind of just like taps against the ground a little bit, and then things start to shake, I imagine. And then there's a bit of an eruption in the ground as this very large metal creature jumps out of the ground. It has sort of like a pointed sort of snout. It has sort of like spines that are sort of reminiscent of a shark, and sort of like as it crawls out, sort of like a tail that has almost like a little shark fin sort of like thing, but it's heavily armored, sort of like a boar, armadillo, land shark. And then
Is Ham considered a beast?
No. A monstrosity.
No, yeah, it's like a monstrosity.
Damn.
This is Ham.
Tibble, how big is Ham?
Big.
How big?
Not as tall as Rue, but like tall as Alton maybe, but very long.
Yeah. Probably about as long as Rue is tall.
Yeah.
And quite and probably kind of wide, probably about around about twice the breadth of Rue or Alton or most of your crew members.
So how tall is Ham?
Did you say probably about as tall as Alton?
I'd say
like 5
Zelda's
foot
quite short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 5 feet tall. From the ground to the top of.
Tibble looks up at this behemoth of a creature. It's like, this is Ham.
Yes, because he likes eating ham.
Huh. I think I'm gonna need a bigger boat.
Ah. True. That might be a problem.
We'll find somewhere for him.
Much appreciated.
And
We're traveling.
And then Ruse takes one last look back at the house and just kind of like steps back a little bit and very sadly turns the latch to close the door and then turns back.
As Ru is doing that, Tibble reaches out his tiny little hand paw to kind of pet at Ham. Does Ham at all nuzzle down?
Ham is very polite. I'm sure. I'm sure he does.
Yeah, Ham kind of leans into it.
Who's a good little beastie? Who's a good giant beastie?
And as you are finally leaving, Rue, and you go to repocket the sea glass stone, you find that they flash again, and through them you see a vision of a deep, dark ocean. Deeper than you ever imagined could be possible, but the rolling waves above make it unmistakable. After a moment, the vision grows deeper, but it is permeated with pinpricks of light, littered about almost at random. You see a familiar silhouette in the distance, that of 𝘧𝘦, and feel yourself moving towards it. Before you can reach him, he disappears in a puff of lilac and violet smoke. The next moment, you see yourself atop the deck of a ship you do not recognize, your arm blade by your side, glowing with a blue light, as you are surrounded by your new friends, appearing to face down something in the distance. Before you can refocus to see what you are facing down, you are drawn out of the vision.
And Rue kind of like just judders if like Tibble looks back. Probably as like Ham sort of like noses Tibble up and kind of like tries to throw him up onto its back. And then Rue sort of like the eyes brighten again because they're probably like quite dim.
I think this will be a very good sign.
Okay. So.
And then, we'll follow Tibble.
Meanwhile, Neris in the mayor's office.
So Neris has walked through town, just sort of taking stock of everything, and made his way up to the mayor's office. And I assume he's been sort of welcomed into the office. Looks down at the chair that he was sitting in previously. And sees like the two chairs. So he'll grab the one on the left and he'll move it further left away from the second chair, and then he'll take a seat.
So, we're not flush with supplies, but if there's anything that you're particularly needing, I can see what we can do.
We would some rations, basic rations, would be very helpful. If you have any of those, I know food may be quite difficult to come by here. I assume you only make what you would eat.
Food is unfortunately a bit harder for us to spare, as we keep to what we need.
Of course. If you have any supplies such as wood or nails, other tools, they would be very beneficial, as we seem to be sailing into more and more dangerous waters now. So being able to repair our ship would be very beneficial to us.
He looks through like a ledger and he says, the town is in a bit more disarray than we thought it was, but we can probably spare some of our wood provisions. And he Says, okay. Was there anything else that can help you?
I obviously I had a bit of a list prepared. However, after seeing what needs to be done with your town, I feel quite bad asking for so many different supplies. Is there anything that you have that you believe may be beneficial that you would be willing to part with that you don't need in the immediate future?
So he stands up and he goes to a small chest behind his desk, and opens it up and produces two small stones, almost gem-like. He says, these sometimes are hunters, gatherers, all those folk who go into the forest. They'll go out, they'll come back, and on top of what they'll be looking for, they'll find these, and we find they have their occasional uses for us here, but they're not usually useful for our kind of simple living. A little bit of a magical charge to it, so to speak. To be honest, we're not even entirely sure of the full capabilities of them. But a man such as yourself, well versed in the arcane, I'm sure will work it out a bit more detailed.
If you are not in dire need of them, we would gladly take these.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
I do have a couple of questions, if you don't mind me asking.
Of course.
𝘬𝘭𝘭𝘪𝘁, the adventurer, seems to have a bit of knowledge of these lands. Apparently there is a bit of magic that is emanating from your forest.
Yes, hasn't really been able to tell us anything new that we didn't know that we could really understand. Most of the stuff that he was telling us was either stuff that we had kind of worked out through living here for as long as we have, or seemed to be on a much more, I guess, more academic, more studied level than we really were worried about.
You don't believe it presents a danger to the village?
Not any more than any other aspect of the wild.
That is good to hear.
Just a fact of life here, especially on Acherin.
Do you get many explorers out here trying to study this particular branch of magic?
Not really. I mean, you find occasionally, but you find being out in the Pathless Isles, people don't tend to bother us too much.
Well, I'm glad you are not in any sort of danger from it. Another more personal question, if you don't mind me asking, and this is more just something that we found in passing. If it is something where I should not be stepping, please let me know. My colleagues and I, when we were investigating, trying to find this creature, we entered your church and we went underneath your church. What do you know of that building, Zancroft?
That it has been there as long as the church has. Has sectioned off into different sections for different purposes, but tend to keep out of it if we're not in need of them. Most services are done out in the open rather than in the church itself, and the church is typically kept for more private matters.
How's he looking right now?
I guess roll me an insight check.
Not using that dice, because that one has not rolled above an 8. All right. That is a 16.
16. Seems to be telling the truth, as far as you can tell. Like, no outward signs of deception.
Cool. There were just some... I am not a religious man, but there are some curious rooms underneath your church, which I don't entirely believe to be outwardly holy.
How so?
Of course, it is not me to pry.
What rooms are you talking about?
Neris is going to describe in not too much detail, but enough of, like, you know, chains, and there was torturing equipment and stuff, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Kind of go into that a little bit.
I will have to talk to Kirk about that.
I don't,
Entirely
this is just what we found.
Of course. I know, it's entirely possible that it's historical.
Of course,
But,
yes.
Yes. I would like to at least broach it with her then. Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
You're most welcome. I know this is probably not at all what you want to hear, but it is what we found, and we are in the business of helping people if we can.
Oh, of course. Of course.
I know I have taken a lot of your time already. I don't know if you were present for the conversation or if you had already left. Rule Friday will be accompanying us on the Polaris. They are on their way as of now. I asked you all for some insight into their behaviors, and I asked for you to write something down so that you don't have to say it out loud. Were you able to do that for me?
I was. And he passes you a sealed letter.
Thank you very much. Well, I do hope that your future is brighter than your past has been.
I hope your future becomes ever brighter.
I will be sending a ship over to grab whatever supplies you are willing to give. I would not expect for you to give everything, obviously. You have a lot of work to do. Whatever you can spare would be incredibly helpful. And we thank you for whatever you can.
Of course. Thank you for what you've done for us. And with that, yeah, I take it you go to rejoin Tibble and 𝘠 on your way back to the Polaris.
Tibble and 𝘠 would
Yes.
come by the mayor's office most likely to pick up Neris.
Yeah.
Neris is
And
gonna sort of
so
hang
that
around the mayor's
Tibble
office.
can sign off on any official paperwork for the exchanging of goods.
We don't bother with that here.
No, we need to for tax purposes. Write it as like a donation. Nurse can show you through.
Right. All right.
Neris pulls out like a pre-written contract and has like filled out a bunch of things that he's been like writing on as we go.
You packed folk with your bureaucracy.
It would not be of my choosing, but you know, we got bosses or whatever, and I'm not a pirate, so
I'm as much as I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind the safety that the additional safety that the Pract brings. I do find myself thankful every so often that our ancestors didn't join into it so that we could keep our independence, keep to ourselves, and just live our peaceful life here on the island.
I am inclined to agree with you. However, I will note that without our interference, well...
Oh, of course. Of course. As I said, like, I'd be lying if I didn't say sometimes I'd like the protection of the Pact.
Well, just give us a holler if you run into any more issues. Can't guarantee we can make it straight away, but keep in touch. Happy to be an ally of your little village.
I think Kirk might have the magic to reach out should we need you.
Aye. Wonderful. Well,
Thank you again.
I'll sign on this little dotted line there and be seeing you, maybe.
Okay.
I bid you farewell, man.
Farewell. Good luck out there with whatever it is you hope to do.
𝘠 just kind of like inclines their head to one side and then just nods.
Of course, good luck here.
We'll be fine. We'll rebuild. Just a bit of damage.
If I may ask you a favor, an additional favor, I guess. Well, if 𝘠's prior associates return, can you let them know that 𝘠 is in the safety of the Polaris?
Of course. We'll definitely
Maybe send
pass
word
that on.
if you can.
We'll certainly pass it on.
And Tibble just kind of looks up at 𝘠, gives a little smile, and is like, all right.
They kind of like they look a little bit again very reserved when talking to the mayor or being around him. But he looks down at Tibble and just like little lights behind his eyes brighten a bit for like,
Thank you.
Of course.
I'm looking forward to this. What an adventure it shall be.
Oh, speaking of, Neris, I think it's time you met Ham.
the bullet turns to regard Nera as its enormous rhino-like form, staring at him with its beady little eyes.
Will also be accompanying us on the ship.
Excellent. That is definitely an idea. Yes. I believe you are correct, Rue. This will be an adventure.
Okay. And over the course of the rest of the afternoon, you return to the Polaris, you gather supplies, and
Sort of long-suffering winching of trying to get Ham up onto the boat, which I'm sure
Crew job.
Tibble's like, no, this is fine. This is okay. We're being nice to. This is great.
I was just going to say, if there's any difficulties with Ham, Fishman would have probably used a certain spell, which is particularly good at carrying heavy things. Tensor's floating disc. However, the question comes into mind, Darby. It hovers over the ground. To find ground. Is ground water?
I think your bigger issue might be the sheer weight of
Is it
Ham
fully
here.
grown?
Yeah, it's like it's smaller than other bullets, but it's
Yeah. Potentially, though, like it might be able to use it as a stepping stone because bullets are still quite good at jumping. Ham is not great at swimming, but probably would be able to swim a little bit. So it might be able to like use that to use as a stepping stone to just leap higher.
Yeah. But yeah,
It's
to
500
note,
pounds for Tensor's floating
yeah,
disc.
and so that is about a quarter of a ton.
Temporary
If it's
stepping
two-
stone.
If
Yeah.
it's 2 tons, then no, absolutely.
Yeah, a bullet is especially because it's got this kind of iron-like hide. It is multiple tons.
Yeah, stepping stone. Rue also like trying to assist getting the Ham up, or like some like waves will sort of like warp a little bit around to help like provide a bit more force. Will be also be noted once Ham does actually get up, Rue's like, don't hit the ship, don't hit the ship. And then like throws a bit of like meat in its mouth instead.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So as everyone is aboard the ship, all the new supplies are on board. The ship begins to set sail again, back
Rue looks mournfully back on Acherin as we depart.
to the Alec Isles, the islands of the Pact. And that's where we're going to leave it for this week.
Ooh.
Excellent.
Alrighty, see you next week, everyone.
Yeah. Have a
Next
good one.
time.
Right.
There we go.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Let us know what you think. Have a great week. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I don't know why I did an "and" before Fishman, but I just thought like
then I guess.
push through it,
Yeah,
and
That's fair.
and now I have a stinger. If I don't get anything else.